Following the election last week in America, I've had a few friends reach out to me to see how we were doing and also to ask me the inevitable, could we also move to Mexico? How's that working out for you guys? I think they're kind of tired of the political atmosphere in America and all the divisiveness. And I think there are some people actually looking for an alternative country to live in. I have friends who are looking at Canada, friends who have been looking at Mexico and Costa Rica and Panama. So I think some of them are just kind of been wanting to know how things have gone for us. I thought it might be time to put together a pros and cons video about some of the things that have gone well for us, things that we've enjoyed. And later I'll make a video on the cons, kind of the things that we had to give up to make this happen for us. One thing to keep in mind here is this list is specific to us and the things we value. And since we are in the Caribbean side of Mexico, I will make this specific to this area. Mexico is huge. So it's hard to make one of these for the entire country, but for where we live and for what the things that we value, this is our top 10 pros of living in Mexico. Number one, we live a slower pace of life and have more quality family time together. This was the main reason we chose to make this move. We have more time together as a family. We have more time with other people, kind of friends in the neighborhood, people who come to visit us. We just have more time available to us. In general, our home life is less stressful. We're not as overscheduled as we used to be. Our son has more unstructured free play. We have a neighborhood that has a pool and a soccer field, and the kids can just go play. We have time to go for a walk together as a couple and talk about our future and things that are going on in our businesses and in our lives. We have time to have wine nights with our friends. We have a coffee date every week. We just have more time together. And we really wanted that because that was something that was scarce for us. Part of what makes this possible is that the cost of certain personal services are much more accessible here in Mexico. Things like getting domestic help, finding someone to, deep clean your house once a week or every day if you want, someone to fold your laundry for you, a lawn care guy, a landscaper. Childcare is more accessible. The pharmacy delivers to our house. Almost everywhere delivers to our house. So we don't have to spend time shopping and buying. I just order it online and it shows up. So these personal services are much lower in cost and much more accessible. So we are able to use more of those things with our standard lifestyle. So we have been able to buy back a lot of our time by moving to Mexico. And that was one of our primary reasons for making this move. And that has worked out for us so far. Number two is there's a much more manageable cost of living here in Mexico. You'll notice that I didn't say cheap, right? It depends on what you value. So for cost of living savings, everyone says to look at the big three: your housing, transportation, and food. I will say there's actually four, which is your taxes. So here in Mexico, all of those things are much less expensive than they are in America. So if you're looking to save costs, you will save costs compared to America. And from a tax standpoint, the foreign earned income exclusion does help lower your tax bill as well. But one caveat I want to throw on here is you can't move international and like move to Mexico or move to Costa Rica or wherever only because you're trying to save money or only because you're trying to, save on your taxes. You will be miserable if that's your main objective. Because yes, you will get that thing, but the costs are so high that it's not worth it for you if that's the only reason you're doing it. So if you're only looking to move abroad to save money, I would not recommend doing that. Number three is that Mexico has a very generous visa policy. If you come here on a tourist visa, you usually get 180 days just to show up. So if you would like to test the water and see how it goes for you, Mexico is kind of easy for that. You show up with a tourist visa, stay for a couple months, see how you like it. And if it's something that you like and you're willing to kind of deal with some of the Mexican bureaucracy, you can eventually apply to get a full resident visa, and it's not so difficult compared to other countries. So it is kind of easy to come to Mexico. And once you're here, Mexico is huge. It's about as wide as America, right? So you can fly 5 hours to Cabo, you can fly to the highlands, you can fly down south, kind of closer to Belize or over to Oaxaca and go surfing. There's just a lot to do here. And once you have your visa and you're traveling inside of Mexico, like you can just travel inside of Mexico. Number four is Mexico has a very rich history. from the Aztecs and the Mayan through the Spanish colonial time. There's a lot of really interesting things you can check out here if you're into history. They also have a strong sense of culture here and celebration. So there's always some sort of party and some sort of festive tradition. People dance and they get dressed up and they pull the kids out of school. And it's just really fun. Mexicans are always kind of looking for something to celebrate. And in general, they love living and celebrating together. So that's been really fun too. The other aspect of that is obviously they speak Spanish here in Mexico. And for me and Ashley, we both already speak Spanish. So for us, it was an opportunity to get better at Spanish and become even more fluent and work on some of our weak areas. It's also an opportunity for us to get our children to get some exposure to the Spanish language and get them to where they also have a bilingual fluency in Spanish. So that was another draw for us. Number five is there's a wide variety of restaurants and cuisine available here in Playa del Carmen. Where Playa is a tourist destination, there are tons of varieties of foods here. There's Italian, there's Indian, there's Mexican. There's all kinds of restaurants here. So if you're a foodie, there are a lot of opportunities to try a lot of different foods here, and the food here is generally high quality. I would say compared to going to a restaurant in the US, or at least where we lived in Utah, I would say it's probably maybe 10 to 20% cheaper. So it's not that much cheaper, but it's more valuable. You get more for your money. You get fresher ingredients year round because things can grow here year round, and generally kind of a better experience for the money. So you don't really save a lot on food here in Playa because Playa is notoriously expensive, being a tourist hub, but the value is there for what you're getting. Number six, there is a warm climate and natural beauty. One of the reasons we also wanted to leave Utah was that it's snowy in Utah for 6 months of the year, and we were just kind of tired of shoveling snow and tired of being stuck indoors for 6 months. So, one of the draws for us to move to this area was to just have sunny weather year round. In fact, here in Playa, and I think in most of Mexico, there's kind of only two seasons wet and dry. You don't get all four seasons that we're used to in Utah. But, in either of those seasons, you can still go to the beaches, you can still go swimming in the cenotes, you can still go explore some of the Mayan or Aztec ruins, you can still go to the adventure parks. Here in the Riviera Maya, there are tons of really fun adventure parks and water parks and things to do as a family. So basically, we have year-round outdoor adventure available to us, and that was important to us as well. Number seven, friendly people and a family-first culture. One of the things we've enjoyed about living here, which we noticed before we moved here, was that a lot of the restaurants have kids' play areas just incorporated into the restaurant. Like they acknowledge that children exist and that parents will stay longer and spend more money if their kids have something to do, right? Crazy. So a lot of the places here have like a nanny service. They have workers working in these playgrounds to take care of your kids for you, and you can sit with, a friend and eat and hang out for like 4 hours, and your kids just go play, and it's actually a really nice experience. There were some places in America that we felt were a little bit family hostile. Like if your kid squawked for a second, everyone looked at you, and it's not like that here. It's understood that children exist and that they can be children, and we go out of our way to also make sure that they're not being a burden to those around us. But in general, it's much more welcoming here to be a family unit and to go places as a family. The other aspect of that is that beaches and cenotes are free or low cost. And you can go there almost any day of the week, and there will be other kids there playing and doing things. So if we have our 7-year-old who's got a lot of energy, we can just go down to the beach that's 4 minutes away and take him there, and there will be kids for him to play with there. And that's free to us. So it gives us something to do any day of the week, almost regardless of the weather, for our kids to do outside and to find other kids to play with and to have something to do. There's also a lot of cultural centers where there's people that show up. There's this guy that makes like foam swords, and you pay him like $5 and your kids can just like battle other kids with foam swords. It's really fun, So there's lots of, ideas and things like that going on because there are a lot of families here. And that's been nice for us in this age of our lives where we have a young family. And kind of segueing into that, number eight is there's a lot of vibrant expat communities. We were cognizant of moving down here that we didn't want to just, go from America to an enclave in Playa of other Americans. We wanted to integrate into the culture. But being that there are expat communities and there's a lot of expats here in Playa, What that means is there are a lot of amenities for expats. So here in Playa, one of the reasons we live here is there are a lot of private schools and diverse schooling options for our family here in Playa. If we go live in some mountain town in, wherever, you'd be lucky to even have a public school, let alone a higher standard private school. So here in Playa, there's a lot of expats. That means there are a lot of private schools, a lot of private hospitals, a lot of private neighborhoods with, their own security guards. And that also means that you get to connect and kind of be around other like-minded individuals and like-minded families. And when you are an expat or an immigrant and you're living in another country, you don't readily have family and support networks available to you. So, being in these expat communities, you're all kind of in that same boat. So, you help each other out. And we've definitely seen that here in our community, where our community is probably half Mexican, half expat. And it's really nice here because we all have similar interests and we all have similar issues where we don't really have a support network. And so, if we need someone to watch our kids for a little bit or we need help with something, people are always going to help because they're in the same situation we are. So it has been nice to be among kind of like-minded individuals and also live somewhere where there are amenities for families here in Playa del Carmen. Number nine here is the healthcare is a high quality and it's accessible. So prescriptions here are much cheaper than in America. I recently was talking to a friend and she asked me for some eye drops to see how much they cost here, and I found them for $23 at the pharmacy that delivers to my house. And she told me that she pays a $75 copay for those eye drops, and then her insurance is billed another $150 or something. So they're being charged like $250 for these eye drops, and then she pays 75 out of pocket every time she gets them. And I can just walk down the street here and pick them up for $23 total. When she showed them to me, I started looking at the box, and these particular eye drops were manufactured by XYZ company in Tampa, Florida. I looked at the box that I bought here for her. It's the exact same brand, manufactured in the exact same laboratory in Tampa, Florida, for literally $23 instead of 250. So she asked me to buy two of them for her. I put them into the app. Within less than an hour, both of them showed up at my doorstep for $2, plus obviously the $23 each that I paid for those eye drops. So it is so much more affordable to get these prescriptions and things because you don't have to deal with the third party insurance billing and all that garbage that comes with American healthcare. If you want to go see a general doctor here, they're less than $10 for a visit. A specialist will be around $35 to $45. Hospitalization is much cheaper here. We actually gave birth to our second son here in Playa, and the entire birth, including the hospital, a night stay in the hospital, all of the doctor's salaries, everything out the door costs us less than 2,100 US dollars. So, in general, the healthcare is much more accessible than in America. And like we don't live in constant fear of like getting hurt and having to go to an ER and like taking out a loan or starting a GoFundMe. Like that doesn't happen here. The very last thing here, number 10, is a large airport and proximity to America. That was important to us because we are traveler people. We wanted to have a big airport so that we could travel back to America or over to Europe or, places that we like to go. We looked at going down to, Costa Rica or Panama or even over to Thailand or Bali. And the issue with some of those places is for us was that we still have connections to America. And so even if we were in Central America in Panama or Costa Rica or Nicaragua, it was still like at least two stops to get back to anywhere that we normally fly to in America. It was a whole travel day. But here in Cancun, there are nonstops to a lot of places in America, including a couple nonstops to Europe. So it was much more appealing for us to live near such a large airport because it makes our travel days so much shorter when we got to go to all the places that we want to go to. The other nice thing about being on closer to America is that we are on Eastern Standard Time. So a lot of our clients are in America. And so for us to be on the same schedule and work with them, it's basically the same as if we were living in America. If you live in Bali or Thailand, you got to get up at 3 in the morning to take calls and things like that. And that's just not super conducive to our stage of life where we have a baby and a young family. And so it kind of put Europe out of the selection criteria for us. The state of Quintana Roo, where we live here in Playa del Carmen, actually observes Eastern Standard Time year round, which has been really nice for our North American clients. So those are the top 10 pros of living in Mexico that we've observed so far. And again, what's good for me is not necessarily good for thee. Those are the 10 things that we value that have been good for our family since we made this move to Mexico. Follow me in the next video. I'm going to make the 10 cons, the things that we've had to kind of give up or tolerate in order to enjoy these pros here in Mexico. See you in the next one.